What's up, guys? Coach Tim here with another episode of Managing the Madness. I'm here with Alex Oilvares. He is the Director of High Performance for Austin FC's Academy program. Alex, great to have you, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, good to see you,
so
dude.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So, for people who don't know you yet, right, give us a little bit of background. You are the Director for High Performance at Austin FC's Academy program, so the Youth Academy.
Mm-hmm.
You're from Spain?
I'm from Spain.
So give me a little background. Give me a little bit of how you came to the country, how you came to the program, where you're from, all that jazz.
Well, starting from the beginning, beginning. I'm from the south of Madrid,
Okay.
Middle class neighborhood.
Okay.
As all the kids in Spain, I think at that time we liked to play the streets a lot.
Yeah.
It's something that we're losing a little bit right now.
Yeah.
At that time it was very fun. I don't think you see now kids staying until midnight in summer nights playing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it came the love for the sport.
Yeah.
We played a lot, but we played mainly soccer, street soccer. And yeah, there was a moment in my life that I knew I wasn't gonna make it pro. I think everyone, most of the kids in Spain, for us it's like a religion, soccer. You know, everyone wants to be a soccer player, but there is a point in my life where, once I was like late high school, I knew that I wasn't gonna make it pro, so I started playing more for fun.
Okay.
But I wanted to be still involved in sports and soccer, and that's why I decided to study sports science.
Very cool.
I went to college there in Madrid.
Okay.
At the beginning, I thought, I wanted to be a physical education teacher.
Okay.
I thought that being a coach, it was more like a hobby or something like that.
Okay.
But very early in college, I was fortunate to meet amazing teachers there, and I thought, I was a little bit more ambitious.
Yeah.
With all the respect, to be a physical education
Sure.
teacher.
Yeah.
And that's how I started working in soccer and being very involved in professional soccer.
Yeah.
But I think also, my desire of education and physical education, that's also what wants me, and I really like working with kids. And I don't know if in the future I will work at the professional level, but right now I'm very happy working at the academy level, and that's like my passion. I think I am able to bring both worlds, the education and
very much so. Yeah.
And soccer.
Yeah, I in the same situation in the setting here. I'm a coach, but I consider myself a teacher. Like a lot of the stuff that we do, I'm trying to teach. Whether it's physics or whether it's some of these things that like apply to athletics and to sports and to lifting and everything else. I definitely feel like I teach as much as I'm just demonstrating and having people do things. So that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
What was the first, I guess, professional opportunity you had after going through school? Did you go right from, because obviously here in the States, it's typically a college setting straight into a paid or an internship professional position. How did that work in Spain?
Yeah, it's very similar. It's true that in Spain, the salaries in the sports are very low. Normally, you have to combine it with another job.
Okay.
So my first jobs, they were high level teams. I would say they were like first division, second division, U19 teams.
Okay.
But I still had to combine it with being a teacher in the mornings and stuff like that. But then the jump is big, because when you make it all the way, imagine that you start there, but you make it to pro. Like the salary is like a massive difference.
Yeah.
So I started in different local clubs there in Madrid, high level, until there was a moment that I entered in Atletico de Madrid Academy.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna be there for many years.
Yeah.
So that was gonna be my thing. It was ideal. As I said, I really like working with academy level professional club like Atletico de Madrid.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, I met what is currently my wife.
Okay.
She's American.
Okay.
She's living in Madrid.
Okay.
And that's what brought me here.
Ah, very cool. Okay. I don't know if I fully knew that. Okay.
Yeah. So not specifically to Austin, but to the US,
States.
to the States. Yeah.
And so, was she like studying abroad, or was she working there?
Yeah, she was working as an English teacher there. There's a
okay.
program. They're trying to make all the schools in Spain bilingual.
Yeah.
English and Spanish.
Sure.
And they're bringing a lot of British and American people to Spain to be English teachers there in the schools, in the public schools. So, there's so many Americans living in Madrid. It's crazy.
I've been to Barcelona a few times. I've not been to Madrid yet, so that's definitely on the bucket list to go and do that. So did you guys come back to Texas, come back to the area? Where did you guys end up coming back to? And
So she's from Maryland.
Okay.
And at the beginning, when we were deciding, where are we going?
Yeah.
Because we could go anywhere.
Yeah.
But then an opportunity came here with the Vars Academy in Austin.
Gotcha.
And that's what brought us here. But
Gotcha.
it was very good timing because 1 year after I arrived is
Yep.
when Austin FC started.
Very much so. I remember that. I remember seeing Barcelona come and start their academy program here. And I think they'd only been here for a couple of years before Austin got the team. Initially started the program, and I knew Tyson before that.
Mm-hmm.
We had talked a few times about like him using my former facility to as a space to train. So I knew that like there was that connection where it was a very small period of time between those two programs kind of getting started off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was great because I started in a place where nothing was done, so we were able to create everything from zero.
Yep.
And it was amazing. I mean, it was a lot of work, but it was also so much fun.
Yeah.
To do that.
I as a small business owner, the idea of like I can do anything, I can create anything if it makes logical sense with who I'm working with and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun to be in charge of like some program from the very beginning and to see how it evolves.
Make it your own. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So did you start with them when they were St. Stephen's first, but so then when they built St. David's, that was the first year you started with them there?
I was there 1 year before, so there was St. Stephen's, I think, for a few months. They had
Yep.
like one team, U15,
Yep.
and I think it was just Tyson, Junro, it was like 2 coaches and an athletic trainer.
Yep.
And then 6 months later is when I started. Once they started, you started with all the 3 teams, it was U13s, U14s,
Yep.
U15s, I believe.
Yep.
And then we didn't have our facility yet, so we were renting a space for a year, and then we transitioned
St.
to the
David's
facility.
got built, yeah.
And that's when we started with 5 teams.
Gotcha. Very cool. So I guess at this point, talk me through your day-to-day. Like talk me through like, I get up, I come in the office at 9 a.m., 10, whatever it is. How does a day go? Because having gone and obviously we met about 10 months ago at the symposium, the coaching symposium, it was really neat for me to see just the second half of the day when I came in the afternoon to watch training.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really curious to see about like what the full day looks like, right? If you're a full-time coach, you're not just there from 3 to 8 o'clock at night, you're there doing other things. So as a sports performance, high performance director, and you guys are top level in this country from a youth program, right? So the equipment you have, the data you have, the amount of resources you have behind the program is second probably to none, to be honest. So talk me through your day-to-day. What does your day look like?
So I arrive at the facility around 7:30
Okay.
a.m. and that's when we have a meeting. The U17 staff
Okay.
and myself finish up some details of the training session that we have planned the day before.
Yep.
U17's practice in the morning. They start at 9 a.m.
Okay.
So 7:30 we meet. Normally those finishing up those details is sometimes maybe some player that has he got up with some hamstring soreness or
Yep.
hamstring tightness, so we need to do some modifications for that player in the drills.
Yep.
Then that lasts normally 15-30 minutes,
Yep.
and then we set up the fields before the kids start arriving.
Gotcha.
8:30 they usually arrive 30 minutes before the training session. 8:30 they start with their pre-activations. Pre-activations is all the injury prevention exercises that they do with a lot
Sure.
of core stability, balance, mobility, running technique.
Yep.
Something is a program that usually takes them like 10 minutes.
Okay.
That repeated over time has an incredible effect.
Yeah.
And then we have also some players that have had some serious injuries before, or they have growing pains,
Yep.
and they have their individual protocols that they
Gotcha.
do during that time. And then at 9 a.m. they have the team meeting,
Okay.
where we go over the training session for 10-15 minutes, and then at 9:15 is when we jump in the field
Like a full session, yeah.
and practice.
Okay.
Normally until 10:30, 10:45.
Gotcha.
Depending on the session. Session finishes, kids go to school. They go to school there from 11 to 2.
That's fantastic. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
And then I get their data from the GPS. Our guys, our GPS trackers.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Mhm.
That might be something kind of outside the norm for people that might be watching
Yeah.
and listening to this, right? So, at the professional level, full professional, the first team, just about across every sport in this country, there are GPS tracking. There's now wearable devices like your Fitbit or your Garmin or your Google Watch or whatever, but all of the professionals at that level are wearing some type of tracking device, right?
Yeah.
What is that tracking device from an input or data standpoint providing you guys? Like, we've got GPS, so that means we can tell how far they run, how fast they run,
Exactly.
heart rate. So give me a little bit of detail there.
It gives you hundreds of data, you know?
Yeah.
And our job is to simplify that.
Got it.
Get the ones that are the most important for soccer.
Yep.
And also digest it for the coaches to understand, you know?
Gotcha.
Like, it would be for nothing if, you know, we're giving them 100 things and they
And then
don't
what they're
understand.
looking at. Yeah.
For us, the most important things that we look at is the total distance that they covered, mostly just because of volume.
Yeah.
Probably that's the least important of the important ones.
Sure.
And then we measure high intensity distance, how much distance they cover running fast, how much distance they cover sprinting,
Yep.
and then accelerations, decelerations. That is a very important one for soccer, and
Sure.
then changes of direction.
Yep.
We also look at top speed, top acceleration, top deceleration, see where their max is in that session. And then depending on the training session,
Yep.
we want some parameters to be higher and others lower.
Exactly.
So we play with that.
Yep. Exactly. And heart rate's obviously come into place, right?
Yeah,
So you can
heart
look at
rate
heart
also.
rate and variability and stuff
And
like
then
that.
it's amazing because these trackers now, you put a vest on,
Yep.
right, to put it. But now the vest has, they have integrated heart rate monitors in there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they are not the most accurate. It's still more accurate to have the actual heart rate.
Sexual strap. Yeah.
But the heart rate, the stripe,
Yeah.
is connects with the GPS and tells you. So
Yeah. So this is the stuff that I think, obviously the average youth coach doesn't get to have access to this kind of stuff, but realistically, like, that's how high level we're talking about with this kind of program. Is that you're getting professional level feedback data that you can, and you've got yourself, and other people that work with you to break this information down and go, okay, so Jonathan needs to take next session he's going to come down. We're going to not work him as hard.
Yeah.
Or, you know what, this person is we've clearly gotten faster because his top end speed and sprints, he's definitely doing the work that we're asking him to do outside of here, whether he's going to the weight room sessions or whether he's stretching on his own. Whatever metric that we needed from him is clearly coming because we can see that. And ultimately, you know, I talk about this with like my weight loss clients and other things, that, you know, getting on the scale and weighing yourself is just irrelevant unless you have data points, right, to back it up. So if you know, I weigh myself once a month, right? I've been doing that for 7 years. I have, 7 years, 84 data points, right, to look at and go, okay, I'm still right where I want to be, right? You know what, I'm a little heavy right now. But an individual piece of data is worthless unless you have something like that to measure it against.
We do it, it's a habit already for us. It's like an everyday thing.
Yeah.
And then, as you were saying, for us it's load management, and I know it's a very expensive tool.
Yeah.
But the number of injuries that prevents,
see, exactly,
make it worth.
Yeah.
Make it worth it. And my recommendation for people who can afford this now, they sell a cheaper tracker.
Yeah.
You know, these big companies, maybe each of those trackers is probably like $1,000.
Sure.
Which is insane.
It's insane. Yeah.
But now they sell like others that are maybe 200, 300.
Yeah.
They don't measure as much, but they measure probably the most important things. And even maybe you could even say, okay, I'm just gonna buy 3 of them.
Yeah.
For my team.
Yeah.
And every time
And
I'm gonna
just
give it.
rotate
But,
around.
and then at least I know what is happening on the field. Maybe
Correct.
I'm gonna give it at 3 different positions because you know what a center back is gonna run in a game is gonna be different from a forward.
Yeah.
So maybe you give a center back, forward, midfielder, and you have a good understanding of what is happening on the field.
And then the 4 or 5 people that play in those positions each, you have at least an idea of like, my center forwards are typically going to be running probably sometimes less over volume, right? Total volume than my center back and my center mid, right? But they're also going to be running at a higher speed, right?
Exactly.
So they have more of a chance for this injury versus these players may have a chance for this injury because they're running more but not as intense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also helps you to place the players in the right positions.
Sure.
Sometimes you can guess that a player is fast.
Yeah.
Or you can guess what's happening on the session.
Yeah.
But if you have all this data, you know, okay, this guy is super fast.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Maybe putting him in an outside position, fullback, winger, forward.
Yeah.
Is gonna help his development. Or this guy who plays as a fullback, he's super technical, but he's actually not fast, and he's not gonna make it as a fullback because he needs to be fast.
Yeah.
Maybe we're gonna start moving him to midfield where he doesn't have to sprint.
Yep.
And he's very technical,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Maybe that way we can
It's
help him
position
better.
development potentially as well. Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many things, but
Yeah.
mainly load management.
Yep.
That is our big one. That's why practice is over. We start analyzing that data. We see if it goes well.
Yep.
90% of the time, I would say it goes well, so we don't need to adjust anything.
Yeah.
But if it happens that it was too much today, or we were planning that the players didn't run any distance at high intensity, but this drill maybe was too big, and they run more high intensity distance than we wanted. The next day, that is the heavy day of high intensity distance, we're gonna try to lower it to try to prevent injuries.
I think that was one of the neatest things about coming and watching you guys those 2 days I did, was that so if we look at U.S. soccer has broken, soccer into basically technical, tactical, physical, psychological, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those 4 areas of the game you want to train. Then in my history with youth soccer, a lot of times the physical development and the physical work is either non-existent or it's just not heavily weighted like technical and tactical, right? And I can understand that because as a soccer coach, you only have so much time on the practice ground.
Knowledge.
And knowledge, right? Especially knowledge. Mm-hmm. So to see how at the highest level the physical work is sometimes dictating what the technical and tactical work is because of load management. This tactical drill is too big because it requires a lot of space.
Yeah.
And our guys are already physically beat up. We need something smaller, less intense, right? So it's really neat to see how the physical work, which is in my opinion, the foundation. Technical is there, obviously, but if you can't run, jump, stop, start, then you can't play a sport, no matter what the sport is, right? Yeah. To see how physical work dictates the other 2 things was really interesting to me. Yeah, I think it's nice. Yeah.
So to start with, we tried. When I first came to this country, I saw that there was a big separation between the areas that you were saying. We're trying to break a little bit with that norm. Yeah. And I think the performance coach needs to be very involved on what is happening on the field. Yeah. So I can do the best, conditioning, strength training outside of the field, but if it is not related to what is happening there in the field, it can be for nothing. Yeah. So that's why we name our sessions, as you were saying, by the physical attributes. So we have 4 different types of session. We call it strength session, endurance session, speed session, and activation session. Got it. The strength session is more about reduced spaces, 3v3s, 4v4, 5v5. It's going to be a lot of accelerations, decelerations, changes of direction. Yeah. Endurance session is going to be totally the opposite. It's going to be big spaces, the moment to work a lot tactically. Yep. It's going to be 10v10, 11v11. This one is usually the farthest from the previous game and the next game. Makes sense. It's going to be the highest load of the week. Yep. And then we have a speed session where it's going to be super intense but short. Yep. It's going to be an action of 15 seconds, rest for high recovery, then you go again. And then activation session is when we unload them to prepare them for the for the game. Gotcha. And then that's why. And then if I didn't know anything about soccer, if I was just a strength and conditioning coach, I wouldn't be able to be helping the coaches in this. Exactly. So they know, okay, it's a strength session. The drills that I have to select for this day
need to be of this type, right? Yeah, absolutely.
And then as you were saying, also we mix everything. So the psychological part comes in, the mental part comes in as well. Yeah. And we also measure the cognitive load. Gotcha. So we have to fluctuate that load as well. So for instance, usually our strength day, I say usually because it depends on certain things. Yeah. But it's going to be a very low load cognitively. Sure. Because they come from a game, high load cognitively. So that day is going to be intense physically. Yeah. But it's going to be
simple to understand, right?
Simple to understand.
There's not a lot of decision-making processes or anything like that.
Or something like super tactical in order to prepare the game. That is going to come in endurance session. Yes. Yeah. Where the coaches have analyzed the game. Yep. And we're gonna play next. Yeah. So there's a lot of tactical points in there.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense because you can't physiologically create too much stress and then ask for a cognitive demand because the body is connected in that way where it's just not going to be optimal, right? And when you have a situation where again you guys are practicing 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
They're 4 practices a week, so you have a lot of volume. Again, with a standard scenario, you may only have 2 to 3 sessions a week, so it's not as easy to do that potentially. I think you still could, But with that, why not specialize that to make it as optimal as you possibly can?
Yeah.
So if data kind of analysis the middle of the day where there's not really any training going on? Is that fair to say that's usually in the scheme of the day, of your day-to-day, the data analysis is usually like middle of the day?
Yeah, I would say it probably happens from 11 to 12, and then we meet again after I have analyzed that data to prepare the session of the next day.
Gotcha.
Or the next morning. We prepare the session, we decide a bunch of things, times of the drills. The drills are usually decided the week before, but if then we need to make some adjustment in those drills.
Gotcha.
After that, lunch break, and then at 2 p.m. we have gym session.
Okay.
So
for the 17th,
the boys,
the 16th,
for the 17th.
Yeah.
So 11 to 2 they go to school.
Yep.
2 p.m. gym session. Those kids go home. 2:30 when the session is over. I usually meet two guys, two of the players individually.
Okay.
That is something that is a
kind
big
of
part
rotating
of our,
as you go. Yeah. Okay.
It's a big part of our method.
Yeah.
In meeting the players individually, helping them realize what type of players they are physically. Sometimes they don't know if they're fast, if they're not.
Yeah.
They can guess.
Yeah, sure.
But we show them a lot of data there. We tell them where are their strengths, where are their areas of improvement. But for me, the most important part of this meeting is what we do about invisible training, something that we call it. That is
I like that.
What are the guys doing? We give them a lot of attention those hours, but what are they doing the rest of the time that they are not with us? How are they taking care of the nutrition, the hydration, the recovery after games, their sleep, all those things. So I try to educate them.
That's a big piece for what I like to do in here too, because it's almost like a secondary piece of what the parents ask of me and ask of the trainers here is, can you speak to my kid about nutrition? I don't think they're sleeping enough. I love that invisible training concept because it's rather than being a passive subject, you're calling it training, right? And so it's now become an active thing that a kid can actually choose to pursue and choose to do, to take an actual role in, I'm going to train better by sleeping more. I'm going to think about how I can perform better by making better choices when I eat my food, right? It's now an active role as opposed to it's something just passively I'm not even thinking about.
And that's what we try to do with our guys, for them to take ownership. I'm here to help you. I am here to help you, but at the end it all comes to you. I'm not gonna be policing you in the gym. I mean, these guys are almost professional athletes, or they're high level.
They're very high level youth athletes.
Most of them they're very professional about what they do.
They're open to that conversation. They're open to, I'm not starting right now. What can I do to change that outside of the 4 sessions a week that I'm doing here? Because maybe that's the little nugget that could be the thing that changes it, right? I have a handful of very high level athletes in here who consider themselves, that's what they want to do, whether it's in college or professional online. And if I can frame sleep, hydration, nutrition, and even stress management, right? Because I end up becoming a pseudo therapist for their conversations on a daily basis, right? It's a one-on-one situation, so it's inevitable. But if I can frame those 3 or 4 things in the context of, and how do you think you're going to perform if you're making these choices, the buy-in is just so much greater, as opposed to just nagging about a bad decision they might have made, from a food or standpoint. But if you want to perform better, how often do you think you should be eating this kind of food versus that kind of food, right? 85% of the time I should probably be doing that way. Absolutely, exactly.
If you're gonna make it to the top level, you need to take care of all those things. I mean, it's gonna, of course, there are very few cases where there's a very talented guy that doesn't do any of that. They probably have examples about people like that, but those are very few. Your chances of making it to pro, if that is your goal, or making it to a better college or a Division I, whatever it is, they're gonna be much increased.
You have to be in the 1% of your age group, your gender, your sport, to be able to not do the other things, in my opinion, especially in this room where the people I'm training aren't to the same exact level we're working with. So then to put a bow and to wrap up the day-to-day, afternoon sessions start, right? For the
meeting,
younger kids.
Yeah. So
another meeting.
2:30 is when I meet those guys.
Yep.
3 p.m. We have what we call technical meeting.
Okay.
And that is like all the staff of the academy.
The entire department.
The entire department meets at 3 p.m. to plan and talk about the session that is going to happen in the evening.
Got it.
So the U17 staff also stays all the way until then.
Okay.
And then after that meeting, they leave.
Yep.
And then what I do is for my days to not be 15 hours long.
Sure.
Because as you can see,
You've already been up since 7. You were in there since 7:30. So yeah, it's now 3-4 o'clock.
Yeah, I have. We are a department, the high performance department, so we have other performance coaches working with us. So I make sure that everything is ready for the evening, that everything is well planned, and then I go home.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Sometimes I stay because I also need to meet sometimes those U15s, U14s.
Yeah.
But I try that maybe it's like once every couple of weeks.
Gotcha. And with those even with those younger sessions, what's the youngest you think the teams that are actually getting into a weight room scenario? Like, because they have certain sessions they go to as well, right? The physical session after, either before or after practice.
Yep.
What is are the 12s going to the weight room, or the 13s going to the weight room?
So the U13s go to is the year that we start with them.
Got it.
With the U12s, we will do if we had more space and more stuff.
Yep.
But what we do with them, with those U12s, we do something that we call agility and coordination.
Okay.
I think they specialize in soccer very early, and we don't allow them to play other sports or play soccer outside Austin FC.
Sure.
Which that has its benefits in terms of controlling their loads.
Sure.
And also, kids that specialize early, they actually have more chances to make it pro, but it has the negative things, that is all the compensations that they're creating in their bodies for not playing other sports. So we do a lot of different things, different type of movements, games. We try to make it fun. That's the best way to engage them.
Gotcha.
To do all those movements that they don't do in soccer. Then U13s is when we start taking them to the gym. It's very focusing on technique, learning the proper movements, and then this goes technique loading until they get to U17s, where I would say 99% of them, maybe there's one new player in the team by then that maybe hasn't lived it, but the rest of them has amazing technique. You can start loading them, doing the things with the proper speed. Even at U15s, by the end of the season, they're already
Gotcha. Yeah, I would imagine so, especially if they've been in the program for 2-3 years at that point in time. They've had that exposure, that repetitive exposure, to where it's no longer an adaptation. It's ingrained in their system, right? So speak to maybe from a overall, whether it be training philosophy for a youth athlete, and then maybe we can speak a little bit about like maybe motivation, stuff like that, but just staying on the training concept for just a couple more minutes. Do you have any kind of tenets that you believe and buy into from a standpoint of training an athlete? Like what are the more important things that you think should come first, and then second, and then third? Kind of what would be your progressions if you had, say an 11, 12-year-old kid to start with? Like what do you believe in as far as how that needs to go from a training process? It's kind of a big
it's
topic,
a broad one.
right? It's broad, right?
I'm gonna start with kind of what I believe and we do with our athletes. And it's something that we kind of commented already, but for me, convincing the player that what he's doing is gonna help him is the first step, because we can have the best program in the world, that if the athlete doesn't believe in it, it's gonna be for nothing. Because there's a huge difference doing something with intention than with no intention. So we start from there, and that's why we have all those individual meetings with the players. And then from there we will start working.
Gotcha.
I would say at the youngest level, we like that they play a lot. That's the main thing. And then
the game is fitness at that point, right? The game itself is the fitness.
We don't
no need for extra running.
We don't do anything endurance wise until U14 is when we start doing some things. But for those kids, as I said, a lot of agility and coordination, learning the proper movements of strength training, but also how to move properly. Movement, we call it movement quality control.
Yeah.
Or the running technique, change of direction technique. I think it's something that you guys do a lot here
Yeah,
also.
absolutely. Yeah.
And then a lot of speed as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a good moment to, apart from learning how to move,
Yeah.
is when the window is open to train that capacity.
Yes.
We try to not put a lot of very long distances.
Sure.
So it can become, but
Yeah.
it's something that is supposed to be good. If you do 40 meters yards with 12 years old, it can
Yeah.
it can become endurance.
Yeah, exactly. Form breaks down probably really fast, right? Yeah.
But we do a lot of speed, agility, and coordination.
Gotcha.
And all that.
Okay.
And then little by little we start progressing them in strength and endurance.
Yeah.
And our goal is that they have built habits for when they make the step to the pro level or the college level.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they arrive to college, or when they arrive to the second team in Austin FC or the first team in Austin FC, they have created some habits.
Exactly.
That they.
Yeah. We have. There's I've stolen this from a much smarter coach than myself, but we have three kind of the overarching, and this is easier for me probably as a business versus a team and organization, but I think it serves the same purpose. The first ultimate goal of this program is that you don't get injured in this program, which from what I saw in the 2 nights I spent with you guys, it's the same thing, right? The second goal of this program is that when you're playing, right, or when you're going for a walk, or when you're doing your job, or whoever you are when you walk in this room, the second goal is you're less likely to get injured doing that thing. Mm-hmm. And again, that goes back to the same thing.
That is exactly what we do. For us, the main goal that we have as a department is keeping the players healthy.
Exactly.
I prefer a player to be at 90% of his
capacity.
Capacity. And have no risk of injury. I mean, now it's almost impossible, but have very little risk of injury, rather than risking it to having 100% and have a high level of injury. Because then if you get injured, you may be missing 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You're gonna go down. But if you are able to stay healthy,
exactly.
That's what you're gonna.
Everything drops. Your fitness level drops. Your touch, your technique drops. Mm-hmm. All of those, your tactical awareness drops. All those things are going to drop as a result of pushing something too far and getting injured, right? Or not maybe being too aggressive in a training scenario, whether it be the weight room or the field, and not saying, okay, that's good enough for now, right? Yeah. Like we don't need to push that more. A lot of times I have to ask and tell the kids in here who want to push, right? I'm just like, just because you can doesn't mean you need to or should. Like we're good right there. Next week we'll be back again, we'll do something again, we'll do the same thing, but we'll bump 5% or 10% of the load, but we don't need to do that. There's, that incremental change is probably potentially more detrimental than it is a benefit.
Something that we try to educate with players and parents is that more is not better. I think that's a big thing here, a big realization when I came here to the US. There is a lot of, the parents are genuinely trying to help their children.
Absolutely.
Have all these extra sessions and all that, and I try to convince them, more is not better, More. I mean, you can do more things.
Sure.
But everything doesn't have to be with intensity and running and doing this. Focus maybe in your core stability and in things that can improve also your body. But that we over how do you say it? That we oversee that.
I call it filling buckets, right? If I train, I train a lot of swimmers, right? So swimming is a cardiovascular sport, most likely. If you to break it down into whether it's a power sport, depending upon the distance, mind you, but if it's most likely, it's a conditioning sport. So when they come to me and they're doing high repetitions of an activity over and over and over and over again, the last thing they're going to do when they come here is do high repetitions of over and over and over again, because that bucket is already full. We need to fill a bucket that is not full, which is higher load, higher capacity, less repetition. So I'm teaching them strength. I'm not having them do 30 box jumps. I'm having them do 5 with the best technique, with the most intent, as you said, right, earlier, as they can versus how many do we do. I'm like, you're only going to do 5, but I want you to do them as full out, as maximum effort as you can possibly give me with as best form as you can give me. Let's speak to the parents. That's a good transition because as someone who works with a lot of parents indirectly through their kids, I try to do the same things you're talking about. Like I'm trying to help them, and that's kind of the point of the podcast in general, is to kind of help give information to parents to kind of guide their kids through this process, whether they're potentially going to be professional or college bound, or whether they're just going out for their high school team and they want to make sure that they do well. So how are your conversations with parents? What do they typically center around? Because again, I sat in on one with you and got to see you speaking to some of the boys and their parents, and it was really interesting to see. Give me kind of a gist of how that works. How does that parent conversation go with you?
Yeah, it will depend on the kid and
sure.
Because we have had kids that have had overuse injuries from doing too much because they were doing things outside of our training session.
Yep.
And as we commented before, we have our sessions are pretty intense.
And
you need there is a reason why we spend all this time planning all these sessions for them then later to
to just
doing
basically
extra practice and things like that. So we try to explain them what we do, what we're doing here, and again that more is not better, and there are other ways to help them. Because if there's a kid that is lacking of some movement quality control, then we ask them, okay, if you really want to help him and do extra things, then what he needs to do is some running technique exercises that have low impact. It's not going to affect to his load, and even if they are low intensity exercises, because some of the players, if they don't do things with intensity, they feel
always
like,
fast all the time.
all fast, like I'm at 100%.
You
can do at your 100% a core stability exercise, that is going to be super beneficial for you, and it's not going to have that risk of injury. We have that side, and then we also talk to them about nutrition, hydration, sleeping. We try to educate them, and we do all these talks with the players, but most of the times the ones who cook at home,
exactly, parents,
take them to the fast food place.
Correct, that's curious.
Parents,
I'm wondering how much, I guess, compliance or pushback do you get at that level? Like that level, to me, if I'm not a parent, my wife and I don't have kids, but if I had a child and they were talented enough to be at that level, with my understanding as a professional in this industry, I would be thrilled to have that detail-oriented of a plan put in front of me as, this is how I'm taking care of your child. Listen, it's technical, it's tactical, it's physical, it's psychological. Here are the things you can work on. But I think that there's still an idea from parents that, because I try to provide as close to something like that as I can in my setting, but I feel like there's still parents who think they know more than you do, or think that their input is more beneficial than yours in that situation. So I'm curious, do you get a lot of compliance where they say, they want to ask more questions and get more information, or do you tend to get a little bit of the opposite?
It depends on the parents.
Sure.
I would say mostly they appreciate everything that we do. They listen. There are parents who know more. I've had parents who are nutritionists that know more than I do about nutrition. So
sure.
Actually, those ones are usually the ones that appreciate the most, as you were saying. And then there are others that don't know. I mean, if they knew, they wouldn't take them to Chick-fil-A. So they want to know more. We start with very simple things. Usually, I don't get any pushback. They're very appreciative of what we do, and I try to make them understand that we're here to help their children.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
That's our goal.
Yeah. How much time, and obviously you have the individual meetings, but as a motivator, as someone who maybe is there to give positive reinforcement, in the small settings, in the small times that I've been in a professional setting where I was a fitness coach or a strength coach or the trainer, I often found that my role tended to be slightly different than the sport coach's role. Like if they were critical and high demanding, I tended to be the one that was the positive influence, the positive motivator, the feedback. I problem solver potentially, where I was the good guy to come talk to and to like build them up psychologically. How much of a role do you have, if at all, with providing like positive reinforcement, motivation, feedback? Because you're with them a lot, right? You're with them on a regular basis.
Yeah,
so.
And I'm usually the guy who knows everyone from in all the teams.
Correct, right?
I see them growing from U12s to U17 teams. So that is one of the cool parts of being in the performance side.
Yeah.
Because usually the middle guy.
Correct.
Absolutely. That the players come to when they have any issue, they're not having enough playing time and things like that.
You're unbiased, right? You can provide feedback, right?
I do a lot of warm-ups with boys who are gonna go on the field. They haven't started the game, and they're a little pissed about that. So I need to talk to them. Now is your, even if you play 5 minutes,
correct.
Give everything you have, because that is what is gonna help you. So all those positive, I try to stay positive.
Absolutely.
With them, because I think that's what is gonna ultimately help them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very much. I tend to try to be the sounding board, where they trust that they can bring something to me, that I'm not going to judge them necessarily. I'm not going to be harsh. I'm going to be honest with them. I'm also not going to just placate them and make them feel like they're a victim either. I want to make sure that I'm honest with them, and that I'm open with them, that they can correspond back and forth with me. That's I think you're right. We're the middle guy. We're a coach, but we're not quite the authority figure that the head sport coach, whether it's soccer or swimming, whatever it is. So we can kind of interpret and kind of manipulate that to where we're trying to keep them in positive mindsets and focusing on the things that they can control. That's what you need to affect, right? Exactly. If you only get 10 minutes today, then ultimately the only thing that's going to change that for you is making him not forget you, and to think about like, I need more of that in my team next week, right? That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, let's kind of draw to a conclusion here a little bit. If you're, what's a take-home message for a parent maybe watching this, listening to this, along the lines of advice or words of wisdom for them to not necessarily like have their kid make the professional teams, but succeed in sports, succeed in youth sports at a youth sports level, be a happy, healthy, successful athlete. As far as from your perspective, working with that high level, what do you see has worked the best from the parents who you've talked to and from the kids you work with? What kind of like take-home messages would you offer out?
I think we're gonna go back to a lot of the things that we have.
Sure, I'm sure.
Talked a lot.
Yeah.
For me, is that the best way to help them is not necessarily increasing the load.
Yep.
All right. So maybe there are other ways that you can help your children in other areas that they don't have to be necessarily exercise, but
not more work.
Nutrition, hydration, reflecting about the games.
Yep.
Being positive with the kids, trusting the coaches as well. I think that is a big one. I got.
That's it. That's good. No, honestly, like that's. I mean, for me, there's that's essentially it. Like there's only so much you can do, right? There's only so much work we can put in before it's too much, and then it breaks us down. So realistically is finding the bucket, and we'll go back to what we said before, finding the bucket that isn't been filled, right? You guys are filling the work bucket, the technical bucket, all of those things, the physical work. What can we do outside to help our kids succeed? And it's paying attention to what they're eating, it's paying attention to how their health and wellness, right? Not necessarily how much work they're doing, right? That's the piece I think that our jobs and what parents can help us do is.
And adding one last one.
Yeah.
Especially for the younger kids, I think we're losing, and I think it's something that we talked at the beginning.
Yeah.
Is that they play. A lot of times, we see 8 years old who go to private sessions. They're paying personal trainers. bunch of money. That I'm not saying that is bad. It can
No,
be depending on what is the goal. It can
Yeah.
be it can be good, but I think they will get very benefit from just playing. Just
Yeah.
They meet other kids that are friends with him, take them to the park,
Yeah.
and just play a 3v3 or even play like fun games. It doesn't even have to be soccer related.
Organized, right?
Organized.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that would be a big one as well.
Yeah, I think that is definitely something that we grew up with. You're talking about playing on the streets in Madrid. We played in our yards, in our front yards with my friends all the time. We played soccer, we played American football in the yards all the time, and there were no rules, there was no like management of the situation.
Yeah.
We figured things out for ourselves, and I know a lot of people in their 40s and 50s will like, you know, kind of talk about nostalgia and talk about how we did things. But I think that there is, the other point about being a parent is that you're trying to facilitate the love of the activity, the sport, the activity, whatever the activity might be, soccer, football, dance, and by putting too many rules, regulations, and making things too professional at too early of an age, it's a little bit, it ends up sucking the life out of it. And
It has to be fun.
It has to be fun. All of them in your academy are there because it's still fun.
Yeah.
Right? They may see an avenue to something else, but it's still fun. It has never stopped being fun, right? And it can't. It can't. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen for them.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
awesome. Yeah. Alex, man, thanks, man.
Thank you
I
so
appreciate
much.
it. I
That was
appreciate it
fun.
so much. That was a lot of fun. That was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
See ya.